Hi guys, welcome to the Classicist Corner. I'm Kat, and this week I'm going to continue my series on Odysseus in popular culture by talking about the year 2000 Coen Brothers film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Oh Brother, Art Thou initially seems very superficially related to Odysseus and the Odyssey. Like, you might think there's a few references here or there, but you might just believe the Coen Brothers when they said in their early interviews about the film that they only really knew about Odysseus and the Odyssey through pop culture and through sort of cultural osmosis. So the links into the film aren't the strongest, and that it's simply an adventure story, if you will. Now, if you haven't seen A Brother Art Thou, go see the film. It's a really good film. It's a fantastic movie. Go see it. And, you know, go see it and then come back here and then watch the rest of this thing. Yeah. So, A Brother Art Thou is the story of Ulysses Everett McGill and his two friends Pete and Delmar as they escape from a chain gang in 1937 Mississippi and try to get their way home to Everett's hometown to get a treasure that Everett claims he has buried there. So yeah, from that synopsis and my previous thing, you might think, yeah, not so much connected to the Odyssey. But classics and the Iliad and the Odyssey and loads of references are the lifeblood of this film, which makes me either believe that the Coen Brothers are lying liars who lie, or have a really fantastic research team behind this production. So take of that what you will. A Brother Art Thou really does encapsulate two of the major themes, which again I've talked about that in another video, so I'll link that one below as well, that really encapsulate Odysseus and the Odyssey, which is cunningness and homecoming. And O Brother Art Thou encapsulates these two things phenomenally. Everett, who's Ulysses Everett McGill, Ulysses is the Roman, as I've said before in other videos, Ulysses is the Roman name of Odysseus, so Everett is the Odysseus figure, and he thinks he is very, very cunning. He thinks he is very, very intelligent and quick with words, and he can come up with a plan, and he's constantly thinking of things to get himself out of situations. But the subversion with this character is that, unlike Odysseus, his cunningness isn't actually there. He is seemingly quite cunning, and he purports himself to be quite cunning, but yeah, he's not that cunning. He's not that all there, which is quite interesting. And it's an interesting take on whether Odysseus actually was that cunning in the first place, or he just said he was, or the narrator of the Odyssey, the narrative of the Odyssey purported him to be cunning, but he's not so much, as Everett claims he's quite cunning but actually isn't, because, not to spoil anything, but half the situations they get the trio in the film get themselves into in the film are his fault, and he doesn't really find a way to get himself out of them. So it's sometimes he does, but it's quite fun. Also, a link to the Odysseus cunningness is there are a lot of disguises in O Brother Art Thou. Everett and his friends disguise themselves a fair bit to try and get themselves out of situations, much like Odysseus disguised himself within the Odyssey. So there's that link. Pete and Delmar represent Odysseus's companions, with two major links to the Odyssey. There is that sort of Pete kind of represents the companions who are constantly questioning Odysseus and getting them into trouble that way, and Delmar represents the Odysseus companions who are a bit stupid and get themselves into trouble that way, with Odysseus trying to hold the whole thing together. And as I've said just now, Everett not being quite the Odysseus figure that he might think he would be, still can't keep the whole outfit together, and that's just really funny in the film. More links to the Odyssey very clearly is that there's just so many references to the Odyssey, very subtle references that if you get them, they're so funny. The number of blind characters within the film, there's two main ones, which the guy on the train track, which they first meet very early on in the film, and the radio station man that puts out a song for Everett and Pete and Delmar when they're just trying to get some cash. And these are both blind characters. And the blindness is a reference to Homer. It's a reference to the name of Homer, which one of the translations of Homer can mean blind man. But also in a book, I can't remember what book it is, I'll have to put it, editing me, put it somewhere, that it is, when he's in the, Odysseus is in the Phoenicians, there is a blind folk singer, there's a blind singer, blind bard, who is singing the tale of Troy. And scholars believe that that might be an in reference to Homer himself, that Homer has put himself into the Odyssey singing the song of Troy as he would have sung the Iliad. So there's a bit of metatextual reference there. So the blind characters, it's also metatextual reference in O Brother, Where Art Thou, because they are representing Homer, who's putting out the story of Odysseus, as much as the radio man is putting out the song, as these epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey are also called songs, the songs of Everett and his friends. So there's a bit of a nice reference there. Also the song they put out is a really fun reference as well. It's A Man of Constant Sorrow, which is a fantastic song. Again, go listen to that. George Clooney really can sing, or someone maybe yells at him, I don't know. And the song is called A Man of Constant Sorrow, and that's actually a pun on Odysseus's name, because Odysseus in ancient Greek means man of odium, which is sadness, it's sorrow. So Odysseus is literally called the Man of Sorrow. That story is a particularly interesting one and means that Odysseus' grandfather who named him was a bit of a dick, but there we go. Odysseus is the Man of Sorrow, so A Man of Constant Sorrow, it's a nice reference there. Other references, of course, the character of Menelaus, this big daddy Menelaus in the film, this big blustery man. He comes in, he takes leadership, certain situations. It's a nice reference to Menelaus there, the character from the Iliad, the king of Sparta and Helen's husband. And there are so many other references in there. You get the three women who can represent both the sirens that Odysseus encounters as well as elements of Circe and Calypso, so there's a nice combination of stuff in there. There is John Goodman's character in the film, who plays a blind, half-blind pastor, who obviously he's a talking salesman who refers to his flock, so his sheep, so he goes around getting people in there, as Polyphemus tends to his sheep. The Cyclops in this, John Goodman, he tends to his flock of followers. He's also in the Ku Klux Klan, which is fun, which is actually an interesting reference to Cyclops, because Ku Klux Klan, that KK, yeah, comes from the word circle. It's why Cyclops. A Cyclops just means circle, so the actual reference to the Ku Klux Klan is a reference to that circular nature of the Cyclops. So the fact that a Cyclops is in the Ku Klux Klan is actually a really fun ancient Greek language reference, and I love it, it's great. And he is obviously quite an antagonistic character, it's all very funny. The character of Penny, which is Everett's wife, who is obviously Penelope, and there are some really interesting things the film does with there. Most notably, to me, is that she really does not wait for Everett as Penelope would. She is fairly modern as 1937 would be compared to the ancient Greek woman, where she doesn't wait for him. She divorces him because he's a scoundrel, and then when he comes back, yeah, she kind of lets him back in. But she was going to marry the suitor, and it's only one suitor, not 14, that Everett has to overcome. And he doesn't really overcome him, he tries to fight him, and again, in a sort of contrast to the Odysseus figure, he just gets beaten, which is funny. So you expect something to happen if you think of the Odyssey, you think there's going to be a showdown with the suitors, and no, it's just one guy and he just punches Everett and it's done. Also a nice subversion is that rather than having the one lone son who has to create this manhood for himself, who has to have this coming of age story in Telemachus, Everett doesn't have a son, he has like a million daughters, and it's just really funny, and they're really cute, and it's just, oh, it's just great. There's just so much stuff in there, and again, it's, if you read the Odyssey and then watch O Brother, Where Art Thou, you'll love them both. And if you haven't seen the Odyssey, O Brother read the Odyssey, O Brother Out There is still a great film. It's so funny, and there's so many other references that to Depression era literature and Depression era music and politicians and American folk culture, which to be honest I don't really get because, you know, not my field. But if you guys know any other references in there to that side of things, please message below. It would be absolutely great. Yeah, it's just a fantastic movie, and it's so funny, and the soundtrack is great, and it's so classics full. It's amazing. And yeah, the homecoming aspect is really strong. The entire film is just trying to get them home, but what home means in the movie is just something really special. So if you like cinema, if you like classics, go watch the movie, see what I mean, and just try and find loads of little references that I might not have caught. And again, either the Coen Brothers are Lying Liars Who Lie or Fantastic Research Team, and I will leave that conclusion up to you. So I will see you next week with more Odysseus. If you like this video guys, please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye!